So in season two, we are chatting about how to be good with money. And I've got some really fantastic reader questions for you. To kick it off, we've got Sunny here basically asking, I have a basic budget in place, pay my bills on time, I'm paying down debt, but I feel behind in savings. I'll transfer money to savings, but then something happens and I transfer it right back. As you can probably tell, my emergency fund has little in it. So I guess my question is, how can I become a good saver versus spender? So going back to the overarching idea, when you feel like you're doing everything right, but you're just not making enough progress, oftentimes the core root of this issue is there's just not a big enough gap between your expenses and your income. And I would look at maybe what your core expenses are, and if you could reduce those, or where some of those bigger additional expenses, whether it's eating out or clothes shopping, and just experiment with pausing one for a month, seeing if you could rejig that expense at all. Or on the other side, it might be time to take a serious look at how to increase your income. And it could be adding extra hours or taking on a side hustle. But long term, that might mean trying to really negotiate your salary or move into a higher position, get a promotion, or even switch gears. But at the end of the day, if there's not a huge gap between your expenses and your income, you're always going to feel like to some degree you're just treading water. So I hope that helps. And this next one is from Michael, who asks, how do you find a financial advisor that believes in financial independence principles? What questions can I ask to validate that they're not just trying to sell themselves? So especially with a financial advisor, we should be really comfortable talking about money. And one of the best ways I found to kind of tease out if they're comfortable talking about money is asking them, how do you get paid? This is my only or my biggest gripe sometimes with financial advisors is as consumers, we don't understand how they get paid. And if there's any professional in your life you should be able and comfortable talking about money with, it should be your financial advisor. So just as they're recommending a portfolio or a plan or the things you should invest in, you should be able to say, I just want to really make sure I understand how you're compensated in the overarching thing and in each product they're recommending. Because what a lot of consumers don't understand is a lot of financial advisors are just selling products like a real estate agent or, any sort of commissioned salesperson who's selling you a product. But what's really tricky is sometimes they're earning different commissions based on what product they're recommending. And as consumers, we just think that they're like our doctors, just trying to do what's in our best interest. And they might be, but it might also be in their best interest. So if there's any professional, you should be able to say, hey, how are you getting compensated for this? And that can really tease out a lot of bad advice when you realize, well, this one product, they're going to make 10%. And this other product, they're doing it as a flat fee or just an advisory fee, but they're not actually making a commission. Sometimes just knowing how someone's getting compensated can make a big difference in how you as a consumer filter that advice. So our next question is from Alicia. She says that she's retired and a widow whose only income is Social Security. They've been able to use savings and life insurance to pay off medical debt after her husband passed away, and she's slowly accumulating an emergency fund in a savings account. So her question is, should I just keep putting money into saving or should I learn to invest in some way? And I love this question. So there's two things. One, you should have an emergency fund. And your emergency fund should be accessible. So for an emergency fund, a savings account is totally appropriate and fine. If you can get one that has a good yield or a rate, then that's all the better. But wherever it's at, that's probably fine. Now, in this email, she doesn't say how old she is. But even if you're 60 or 65 or 70, The reality is you might still have a long timeline for your investment. If you're investing at 60, that might be money that you're using at 85. So you still have, for that small amount of money, a 20 or 25-year time frame. And one of the greatest dangers of investing isn't market fluctuation, it's inflation. So once you have your emergency fund, it is important to slowly start doing some investing for yourself at 70 or 80. You might not have a super aggressive mix because your timeline is a little bit shorter, but you definitely don't want to keep all of your investments and all of your retirement savings just in a checking account because inflation is going to erode that earning power over the next 20 or 30 years. So our next question is by Lisa, and she says, I tend to squirrel away money and have a hard time spending it. I grew up in a single-parent household where we lived paycheck to paycheck, and I was very aware of the financial situation. Not wanting that for myself, I put a good chunk of money into savings, and I do my best not to spend. As I ease into adulthood, it's hard for me to come to terms with all the bills I need to pay and find myself denying things that typical adults need to purchase, like furniture or clothes for work. How can I create a better relationship with money? I love this question from Lisa. So, Lisa, it sounds like you're doing a really great job, transitioning from where you've come from, and you have some values around frugality, but it is important to not let money stress us out because sometimes we do need to spend money, and sometimes it is enjoyable and adds so much value to our life to spend money on things that matter to us. So to just get yourself started, I would have your core expenses and just understand this is your monthly net. These are things that you're going to have to pay for, like, your rent and your bills. But start to pick maybe 2 or 3 or 4 things that you really value and are really important to you, and create a discretionary fund to pay for those things. And one of the exercises that can be really helpful, especially for people who struggle so much with this scarcity and this fear and discomfort with spending, is every time you spend something that's from your discretionary fund, at the end of the day, at the end of the week or the month, just jot down how much you've enjoyed that specific kind of purchase. So whether it was going out to lunch with friends or buying a new outfit, sometimes in the moment, spending the money can be painful, but let's reflect back on it a week later or a month later. Was that actually an enjoyable way to spend money? Did that make your life a little bit better? Because there are things that are enjoyable to buy, but aren't necessarily enjoyable to use. And then there's other things that are, it's kind of painful to buy things, especially if you fall in the camp where everything's kind of painful to buy. But we do actually get a lot of enjoyment from it and we appreciate it a lot. So just starting to keep a journal of those things that, wow, I am glad that I went on that trip, or I had lunch with those friends, or I bought myself like a new denim jacket, so that going forward in your budget, you can prioritize those things that brought joy and fulfillment to your life and do more of those things. And if there were things that you were like, man, that lunch at Chipotle was totally a waste of money. Like we could have just ate at my house and had more fun, or went for a walk together and had more fun. And then you just don't do that going forward. But then going forward, you have more of the things that you feel comfortable and confident that, yeah, if I spend money on this, the last 8 times I've done it, it ended up being a really good choice. And you can feel confident that it's going to be a good choice this time as well. And our last question is from Holly. She says, common questions I get from friends and clients. How do I reduce grocery spending? Is the first question. And so one of my easiest tips for that to just get started are to find ingredients that naturally, without a sale, without a lot of fuss, are more affordable. And I categorize those like, what are the ingredients that are under $1? Maybe that might be beans or rice or pasta or onions or carrots or different produces on sale. And just start with one recipe that leans really heavy on those ingredients. Find one that's easy to make, that your family enjoys, that you enjoy, that's healthy for you, and just learn like one a week. And at the end of a few months, like maybe that's a thing that you lean into over the next 12 weeks. But at the end of the few months, you're going to have 12 recipes that no matter what's on sale or what coupons are out there, they're easy to make. You guys love them, and they're just naturally more affordable. And slowly you'll see your grocery bill decrease without any additional effort on your guys' part. And her second question, which I also love, is how to go out to eat with 2 kids or more. I got the more, and stick to our eating out budget. So, first question, is it fun to eat out with kids? Like, we just have to examine this one all by itself. Or how could we make it fun? So, honestly, with 5 little kids, it is not fun for us. I don't love it. So, we don't. We just kind of don't. But here's what we do enjoy. I like taking my kids out for ice cream. I love going to maybe get a dessert, something that's, kind of a treat, and we get out of the house. But even if we go to like the fancy ice cream place, which I love fancy ice cream, it's $3 a scoop. So we're spending $15 for our family. And if we're looking more for convenience instead of an experience, I just find those convenience options, which are also affordable. So for us, that's like Costco pizza. Costco pizza is total convenience. It's $10. It'll feed everyone. Me and my husband might throw a little salad in it. So, we're not just eating pizza all the time. But I think just question your assumption, figure out what you really want from the eating out experience. And if there's any other ways to get kind of that end goal without doing the conventional thing of, 7 people at Applebee's. So that is this season's question and answer. So just remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be a little bit more courageous every day because adventure awaits.